She was supposed to have a brilliant life, a twisted love affair, a nightmare she couldn't escape. When she turned to the world for help, what did she get in return? For minutes, just 4 minutes, hope turned into despair. Who will be held accountable for the lost life? The truth is far more brutal than you can imagine. Hello, everyone. I'm Johnny. Welcome to M Decoded. Mitaka City is located in Tokyo. It's the easternmost city in the Tama area. It's rich in nature. It is said that this place was once, during the Edo period, a falconry ground for the Tokugawa shogunate. That's how it got its name. In the northeastern part of Mitaka City is the famous Inokashira Park. It's one of Japan's top 100 cherry blossom viewing spots. Hayao Miyazaki's Ghibli Museum is also located in Mitaka City. The protagonist of our story is Saaya Suzuki. She was born in 1995. She has a sweet appearance and is well loved. She grew up in an artistic family with screenwriters, directors, and artists. Her mother even held her own art exhibition. The family has a close relationship. In the 5th grade of elementary school, 10-year-old Saaya Suzuki was discovered by a talent scout from an entertainment company and made her official debut. She participated in the filming of a horror movie. After that, she appeared on screen many times, and her adorable face attracted numerous fans. Later, she was scouted by another large talent agency, who planned to focus on her development. But just as her star was rising, an incident occurred that completely destroyed her beautiful life. October 4th, 2013. It was a Friday. The weekend was just around the corner. But this morning, 18-year-old Saaya Suzuki wasn't happy at all. Her heart was in turmoil because of a text message. The person who sent the message was her ex-boyfriend, Ikenaga. The message said he wanted to see her one last time. Ikenaga was 21 years old, 3 years older than Saaya Suzuki. They met through Facebook 2 years ago and started a long-distance relationship. They broke up after a year of dating, but only 6 months later, starting this spring, Ikenaga hadn't moved on and insisted on getting back together. During this period, he constantly harassed her with text messages. It was now October. Recalling their time together, unpleasant memories flooded back, making Saaya Suzuki firmly reject his request to reconcile. But Ikenaga didn't back down. Instead, he resorted to more extreme behavior, like sending emails threatening to kill her. The situation was even worse today. On her way to school, Saaya Suzuki discovered that Ikenaga, who should have been in another city, was following her. This terrified her. When she saw a message at school from Ikenaga saying he was coming to find her, her fear reached its peak. She immediately reported the situation to her teacher. After learning about the situation, the school tried to report the incident to the nearby Sujinami police station. But the officer who answered the call said the case should be handled by the Mitaka police station, which had jurisdiction over Saaya Suzuki's home area. 4 days later, on the morning of October 8th, Saaya Suzuki took time off from school and, accompanied by her parents, went to the Mitaka police station to file a report. She told the police in detail about her recent experiences and her anxieties. After understanding the situation, the police officer tried calling her ex-boyfriend, Ikenaga, 3 times. But there was no answer. After filing the report at the police station, the Suzuki family felt somewhat relieved. They hoped the police would handle the matter properly. So they went about their daily routines. Saaya Suzuki's parents hurried to work, immersed in their busy schedules, and Saaya Suzuki returned to school to continue her classes. After finishing her classes for the day, as the school bell rang, Saaya Suzuki left the school. Her heart was filled with anxiety. She trusted the police officers, but she was also afraid of the unknown. 4:51 p.m. She arrived home. She called to let them know she was safe. The police officer on the other end of the phone was relieved to hear she was safe. A weight was lifted from his mind. However, just 4 minutes later, at 4:55 p.m., they received another call. Saaya Suzuki was reported stabbed and is now lying in a pool of blood. The situation is critical. After receiving the report, the police immediately dispatched officers to the scene. The scene is a residential area in the Inokashira district of Mitaka City. Surrounded by detached houses, 18-year-old Saaya Suzuki was found lying on the street. She was critically injured. She was rushed to the hospital. Meanwhile, police officers cordoned off the area and began their investigation. Judging by the bloodstains, it appears she was attacked on the steps in front of her house. Injured, she tried to escape to the street for help, but was stabbed again during her escape. The suspect had fled the scene and left no weapon behind. The police immediately began searching the area around Saaya Suzuki's home and set up checkpoints at major intersections. Despite the best efforts of medical personnel, young Saaya Suzuki succumbed to her injuries. The autopsy revealed a total of 11 cuts and stab wounds to her neck and abdomen. Her carotid artery was completely severed, causing her to bleed to death. The police investigation intensified. The person who reported the crime was a 52-year-old woman, a neighbor of Saaya Suzuki. With a trembling voice, she described the heartbreaking scene to the police. That evening, she heard a blood-curdling scream from the street. Upon checking, she saw Saaya Suzuki in her school uniform. She rushed out of her house and ran to her side. Saaya was lying in a pool of blood, her face ashen. Her eyes were wide open, and she was barely clinging to life. She seemed to be trying to sit up. But the neighbor, fearing further injury, told her not to move. The neighbor then went back to her house to get a blanket and carefully covered Saaya with it, trying to offer some warmth and comfort. Another neighbor who came to help pointed in a direction and exclaimed, "That man!" In the direction he pointed, there was a man wearing a purple headscarf and dark clothing. He was holding a small knife and quickly leaving the scene. He was clearly the attacker. The neighbor instinctively wanted to chase after him, but was dissuaded by others, who feared such impulsive action could be dangerous. While giving her statement to the police, the neighbor repeatedly wiped away tears, saying she had a deep affection for the Suzuki family. She had practically watched Saaya Suzuki grow from a little girl into a young woman. She said she had never seen the attacker before. She was deeply shocked and disturbed by this sudden tragedy. The police noted that, immediately after the incident, someone publicly claimed online to be the perpetrator. That person was none other than Saaya Suzuki's ex-boyfriend, Ikenaga. He not only posted private photos of Saaya Suzuki online, but also added a chilling message. The victim wasn't chosen randomly. We had a grudge. An hour and a half after the incident, at 6:30 p.m., the police found a suspicious man in a residential area about 1 kilometer west of the Suzuki home. He was barefoot and had bloodstains on his pants. He was none other than the suspect, Ikenaga. Several officers quickly moved and surrounded him. Ikenaga offered no resistance and was arrested. Ikenaga is of Japanese and Filipino descent. His full name is Charles Thomas Ikenaga. His father is Japanese, and his mother is Filipino. He was born in Manila, Philippines in 1992. In 1993, when he was still a toddler, he was brought to Kyoto, Japan to live, although his living environment had changed. His life didn't improve, but instead worsened. Domestic violence was frequent, and he and his mother were forced to live in a cramped room. When he was 4, after his parents divorced, his mother became indifferent towards him. often leaving home for days at a time. He was left alone at home, and when he was hungry, he would beg for food at nearby convenience stores, just to survive. As he grew older, he reached a height of 1.8 meters, and his muscles became strong and defined. Close friends described him as a man who walked straight out of an anime. They felt Ikenaga possessed a charm that transcended reality. His personality, interests, and behavior often reminded people of anime characters. He was unique. After graduating high school, Ikenaga entered society and worked odd jobs in Kyoto to make a living. In 2011, at the age of 19, he met Saaya Suzuki, who lived in Mitaka City, through Facebook. He was deeply attracted to her pure appearance and cheerful personality. They developed a connection. And despite the distance, they began a long-distance relationship online. Ikenaga often visited Mitaka City for dates. It was during this time that he learned Saaya Suzuki's address by following her. Ikenaga's early experiences left him with deep insecurities. He was working as a truck driver, earning a meager salary. He was afraid of losing face in front of his girlfriend. So he lied, claiming to be a student at a prestigious private university, with excellent English skills and numerous accolades. Saaya Suzuki believed him. But as time passed, cracks appeared in their relationship. Ikenaga's infidelity dealt a heavy blow. Saaya Suzuki, upon learning the truth, broke up with him and decided to study abroad in 2012. Ikenaga refused to accept this. He threatened Saaya Suzuki, saying that if she left him, he would release her private photos. Despite this, Saaya Suzuki remained firm in her decision to leave. She didn't realize that a seed of hatred had taken root in Ikenaga's heart. Saaya Suzuki was gone for a year. In the spring of 2013, Ikenaga learned of her return from abroad. His restless heart began to stir. The thought of reconciliation grew stronger. But Saaya Suzuki ignored him. With each rejection, Ikenaga felt a deep sense of frustration. He realized that his hopes for reconciliation were dashed. This despair led him to extreme thoughts. To ensure his plan would succeed, he began to consciously improve his physical fitness, frequenting the gym and undergoing intense training. At the same time, he wrote motivational phrases in his phone's memo pad to strengthen his resolve and courage. In March 2013, Ikenaga quietly arrived in Mitaka City. He secretly followed Saaya Suzuki and lurked near her home, secretly observing the Suzuki family's routines. After confirming that Saaya Suzuki was home alone, he broke into the house and handcuffed the terrified Saaya Suzuki. He assaulted her. Saaya Suzuki cried and begged him to stop. Ikenaga then made a demand. She had to contact him every day. Faced with this threat, Saaya Suzuki agreed. She was afraid of her private photos being leaked, so she didn't call the police. She hoped to appease him. For the next few days, Ikenaga saw that she was replying to his messages, which gave him some peace of mind. He returned to Kyoto and his work. He didn't expect that 3 months later, in June, Saaya Suzuki would suddenly block him and stop responding altogether. This made him feel angry and helpless. He wanted to take action again, but the sudden increase in workload at his company prevented him from doing so. So he decided to carry out his previous threat. To prepare for his next move, he waited until September. His work was no longer busy. Ikenaga planned another trip to Mitaka City. Before leaving, he invited his best friend out for drinks. He seemed to be seeking emotional support and comfort. Ikenaga told his friend that he was moving to the United States for 4 to 5 years. They might not see each other very often after that. His words revealed his reluctance to part. He also said he wanted to say a final goodbye to his ex-girlfriend before he left. However, his friend was unaware of his dark plan. So he just expressed his understanding. They drank the whole night. Until dawn. Ikenaga finally got up and left, embarking on a path of no return. September 28th. He passed through Musashino City. At a local grocery store, he casually picked out a 13-centimeter knife. Starting October 2nd, Ikenaga started uploading numerous private photos of Saaya Suzuki to the account he created. He added hateful captions to the photos. Since Saaya Suzuki had appeared in several TV dramas and had a certain level of fame, these photos quickly spread across the internet, causing a sensation. Ikenaga posted a total of 67 photos. Most of these photos were taken by Saaya Suzuki herself. Originally taken out of trust between the couple, she never imagined they would one day be made public. But Ikenaga's actions didn't stop there. He anticipated that after the last incident, the Suzuki family would be on guard. So he booked a room in a hotel near the Suzuki's home to familiarize himself with their routine again and find a way to avoid security cameras. To his surprise, the Suzuki family's schedule hadn't changed. On the afternoon of October 8th, Ikenaga seized the opportunity to climb to the second floor of the house next to the Suzukis. Then, through an unlocked window, he successfully snuck into their home. He carefully hid in a closet on the first floor, patiently waiting for Saaya Suzuki to come home from school. During the time he was hiding, Ikenaga wasn't idle. He kept contacting the outside world with his phone. He asked his friend to call the Suzuki's landline to confirm whether anyone was home. After confirming that no one was home, he frequently sent text messages to his friend. The messages were full of contradiction and anxiety. "I can't make up my mind. I didn't intend to do this. But somehow I ended up in the closet. I want to leave, but I can't. I want to go home safely. I'm screwed." From 1:27 p.m. to 2:30 p.m., Ikenaga sent a total of 56 text messages. Each one revealed his deep conflict and unease. At first, his friend didn't take these messages seriously. But as more and more messages came in, his friend gradually sensed the gravity of the situation. He tried to persuade him with a gentle tone, hoping he would change his mind. However, this did not shake Ikenaga's resolve. He seemed to be trapped in his own narrative. Until 4:51 p.m., when Saaya Suzuki came home from school. That very morning, she and her parents had gone to the Mitaka police station to file a report. She had slightly let her guard down. As she was reporting her safety to the police at her doorstep, Ikenaga suddenly rushed out of the closet and attacked her. He aimed for Saaya Suzuki's neck and abdomen. After a chase, Saaya Suzuki collapsed on the street outside her house. But Ikenaga refused to stop and continued stabbing her. After that, he ran away. During his escape, his friend contacted him again, asking if he had done it. Ikenaga, while fleeing, confessed. He admitted, "I was panicking, so I couldn't hear her voice. But when I bumped into her, she screamed and ran out. I immediately chased after her. He did it on impulse." His friend, upon hearing this, earnestly advised him to turn himself in. Ikenaga ignored him. He hung up the phone. He then told his mother. He also boasted about it online. He seemed to be seeking a twisted sense of validation. He wandered aimlessly through the streets until he was found by the police. 3 days after the incident, the police found the murder weapon 600 meters from the crime scene. They also found one of Ikenaga's shoes on the second-floor balcony of the house next to the Suzuki residence. This proved he had entered the Suzuki home illegally. This proved he had broken into the Suzuki home. 1 year later, July 2014, the case was heard at the Tachikawa branch of the Tokyo District Court. The defendant, Charles Thomas Ikenaga, was charged with murder, burglary, and other crimes. Ikenaga attended the trial wearing a black jersey. His eyes darted nervously around the room. He licked his lips. He seemed nervous. During the prosecution's opening statement, he stared intently at the prosecutor, blinking repeatedly. The prosecution stated that the defendant, Ikenaga, had lied repeatedly while dating the victim, Saaya Suzuki, and betrayed her when she broke up with him. He not only refused to accept it, but shamelessly harassed her. He even went so far as to violate her privacy and share her intimate photos, and ultimately premeditated her murder. These actions were undoubtedly inhumane. These actions were undoubtedly devoid of humanity. Faced with these accusations, Ikenaga sat in the defendant's seat, expressionless, as if the words had nothing to do with him. But when his defense attorney mentioned the abuse Ikenaga suffered at the hands of his parents during his childhood, his body trembled slightly. He lowered his head. His expression hardened. It seemed as though this past trauma had touched a deep wound within him. Saaya Suzuki's father appeared in court as a witness. He recalled the morning of the incident. His daughter had anxiously asked him, what would happen if something bad happened to her? He firmly replied that he would seek justice for her at all costs. His daughter's words became a grim prophecy, leaving them heartbroken and enraged. Their daughter had been their hope and motivation. Now their lives would be shrouded in darkness. When Ikenaga was asked about his thoughts at the time of the crime, he stated that he had been confused and wasn't even sure if he really wanted to harm Saaya Suzuki. He understood the family's pain, but he felt no empathy for his actions. He felt no remorse. When the judge pressed him further, asking why he leaked the private photos, Ikenaga claimed he did it to brag about his intimate relationship with Saaya Suzuki. He wanted to preserve evidence of their relationship. He wanted to damage Saaya Suzuki's self-esteem through this act. After 10 days of trial, a verdict was reached. The judge deemed Ikenaga's actions extremely selfish and unrepentant. Therefore, leniency would not be granted. The court then delivered its sentence. Ikenaga was found guilty on multiple charges and sentenced to 22 years in prison. The judge reasoned that due to his young age, there was still a possibility of rehabilitation. Faced with this verdict, Saaya Suzuki's parents expressed extreme disappointment and dissatisfaction. They believed that the sentence did not adequately address the severity of the crime or the pain inflicted upon the victim's family. Ikenaga's defense attorney, however, argued that the sentence was too harsh, claiming the court hadn't fully considered the defendant's tragic childhood, including the domestic violence he suffered and the neglect. The defense argued that a 15-year sentence would be more appropriate. Both the prosecution and the defense appealed the verdict, filing separate appeals. As the case gained public attention, the public expressed confusion over the sentence and outrage at Ikenaga's dissemination of Saaya Suzuki's private photos, which they considered a criminal act. They believed it constituted a crime. California had recently passed a law against the malicious online distribution of private photos, with a maximum penalty of 6 months imprisonment and a fine, signed into law by the then governor. It took effect in October 2013. The Japanese public began to pay attention to this issue, calling for similar legislation in their own country to protect citizens' right to privacy. Influenced by this incident, in November 2014, Japan also enacted a relevant law. It covered not only intimate acts, but even images of individuals clothed. As long as the images could be deemed sexually arousing, distributing them without consent was considered illegal. Violators could face up to 3 years in prison or a fine of 500,000 yen. 2 years after the incident, on August 7, 2015, the prosecution filed another lawsuit against Ikenaga. On March 16, 2016, the second trial began at the Tachikawa branch. This time, Ikenaga appeared in court wearing a black suit and white shirt. He strode to the defendant's seat and stood motionless, as if lost in thought. The defense lawyers mounted a strong defense. They argued that the prosecution's decision to file another lawsuit after a verdict had already been reached was an abuse of prosecutorial power. The defense further argued that the victim had also acted recklessly by sending her own private photos. Therefore, the incident should not be solely attributed to the defendant. The victim should also bear some responsibility. The court delivered its final verdict. Ikenaga was found guilty on multiple counts. However, the judge stated that the original sentence was not erroneous. Therefore, the 22-year prison sentence for Ikenaga was upheld 4 years after the incident. In January 2017, the Tokyo High Court upheld the previous ruling, finding no impropriety in the outcome. Upon the announcement, many people who had followed Saaya Suzuki's case expressed their indignation. The police's handling of the case also came under scrutiny. Saaya Suzuki had reported to the police twice before the incident, but this had not prevented the tragedy. People questioned whether the police had truly fulfilled their duty to protect citizens. Faced with these questions, the authorities evaded answering, stating it was difficult to respond. Following the incident, Japan revised its stalking laws, requiring increased patrols not only around the victim's residence, but also around the suspect's residence. A reporter visited Ikenaga in prison. When asked if he had ever loved Saaya Suzuki, Ikenaga replied, no. Bluntly and directly, he explained that Saaya Suzuki was a source of pain for him, and that only by ending her life could he end his own suffering. If he could do it again, he would still make the same choice. One reporter described him as an incomprehensible, abnormal individual. He was well-dressed, and his demeanor suggested a certain gentlemanly quality, making it difficult to reconcile his appearance with his wicked heart. An actor who had worked with Saaya Suzuki expressed his condolences on social media. He had played Saaya Suzuki's father in a television drama. So, when he learned of her death, he was shocked and grieved, deeply disturbed. Saaya Suzuki's agent, in an interview, also expressed profound sadness. He said that Saaya Suzuki was the same age as his own daughter, and he regarded her as his own. Tragically, at an age when she should have been shining brightly, she met such a tragic end. There were also dissenting voices regarding the incident. Professional baseball player Takemitsu Kobe, following the incident, posted a message on Twitter, saying that regardless of what happened, photos that can't even be shown on TV, if they get out, won't make me feel sorry at all. Serves her right. Although Takemitsu Kobe did not explicitly state which incident he was referring to, netizens, with their keen intuition, quickly connected it to Saaya Suzuki's tragedy, triggering a wave of condemnation. Netizens expressed their anger at his insensitive remarks. Under pressure from public opinion, Takemitsu Kobe deleted the controversial post, also issued an apology statement. Attempting to quell public anger, the president of his team also personally stepped forward to apologize for Takemitsu Kobe's actions and announced the suspension of his public activities. As punishment, regardless of the outside debate, Saaya Suzuki is like cherry blossoms falling in the wind, already fading with time, gradually forgotten. Although she is gone, her beautiful image remains in the drama. She reminds future generations to be vigilant and protect themselves.